What's going on, Gym Rats? It's Game Point. I'm Mr. Fundamental. Welcome to the Friday, August 23rd edition of this show. Today we got lots to talk about. It's going to be an exciting show. We're going to talk some preseason. Is it a joke in the NFL? I don't know if you guys noticed, but we got college football tomorrow, week 0, Florida versus Miami. We'll get into that. And then finally, I'm going to reveal the greatest of all time in the NBA using Mr. Fundamental's formula. I'm going to explain it, and I'm going to give you the top 12 of all time. No debate. I'm right, but hey, we can debate about it, and we'll get into it. But first, let's get into what Mr. Fundamental is fired up about in the news. First, I don't know if you guys heard, New England's Patrick Chung is facing cocaine possession charge. Now let me tell you something. I know I'm a big Patriot fan, but if this comes out to be true and he gets thrown out the league, so be it. There's no room for things like this in the NFL, especially when you're looked up to by so many fans out there. This is a big no-no. Now, what I've heard was how he got busted was an alarm went off in his house, and so the police came and checked. Therefore, they had a right to go in the house, and that's where they found the cocaine is in his house. So I don't know how you get out of that one, but good luck to you, man. So it's going to be next man up for the Patriots, of course. I mean, if you guys saw in the Super Bowl, he did break his arm, and he's coming off the IR, but it looks like he's a goner. That's for sure. Let me know if you guys can hear me okay. I see my daughter saying, hey, what's up? Do you want a slushie from Sonic? Of course I want a slushie. Give me a lemon one. I love me some Sonic slushies. But let's move on from that. What else I'm hot on? So Patrick Chung is a goner. I'm going to load up my other comments for my phone here so I can see him a lot quicker, because like I said, I get a 30-second delay. And comment as much as you want. I'll try to talk to you guys at all times. You guys are what makes the show, so thanks for joining me, of course. Joe Lolio. Uncle Joe wants a slushie too. Are you coming to the house, Joe? What's up? Okay, next thing. Ezekiel Elliott did get a contract offer from the Dallas Cowboys, and what has been told, it's not as much as Todd Gurley and a little higher than Le'Veon Bell. Now, if you know, Todd Gurley makes $14.4 million this year, and Le'Veon Bell $13.1, so I guess you would say about $13.8. And what do you think? Jim Rance, should he take it? I think that's a fair offer. I can understand where the Cowboys are coming from. They don't want to make them the highest paid, due to the fact that could be injuries involved. But they do run them to the ground. So if anybody deserves to be the highest paid, hey, it would be Ezekiel. And we always talked about that, that's for sure. So what do you guys think? Should he take it, or should he just stand his ground and wait to be the highest paid? I'm not sure. But I'm going to go ahead and click this here, and there you go. So I don't get so much of a delay. So let's move on. Loli asks, is a scheduled show Tuesday? And I'm glad you asked that. We'll get this out of the way right now. Thanks for keeping me in track, of course. Tuesday, I'm going to be going out of town, so I'm taking my daughter up to the University of Wyoming. Yes, she's going to college, so, Daddy's got to take her up there and drop her off and let her spread her wings, yeah, it's going to be tough. But I'll be on the road most of the day, so what I'm going to do, I'm stopping off in Amarillo, and I'm going to do my show from Amarillo. So instead of at 4 p.m., we're going to do it at 6 p.m. And I'll send out reminders and stuff like that. It'll be a special show, Mr. Fundamental on the road. And obviously we'll be talking some NFL and some more college football and whatever comes up, because we love to talk sports. So next we're going to talk about, obviously, this or tomorrow is week 0. Now, most college football games are starting next week, which is the 31st. They made this game a week earlier due to the fact it's the 150th anniversary of college football. But here we go. We're going to have Florida and the Miami Hurricanes doing battle tomorrow. Now, I'm going to give you kind of what I think is who's going to win the game. You guys go ahead and comment as well. I'm not a big college football guru. I don't know all. So let's talk about it. Let's tell me who you think is going to win this game. Now, I know last year Miami went 7-6. Going into last season, they had a lot of hype, and they didn't live up to it. Their coach retired, and it was Manny Diaz. He's taken over, and they got a lot of question marks because they had 3 guys going for the quarterback. Jaron Williams won the job. Nate Martell, who lost the job, is actually playing some wide receiver in practice, so I don't know if he's going to line up in wide receiver or what. There's a lot of question marks for Miami. A lot of people in college analysis are saying that they're in a rebuilding mode. Meanwhile, on the other side, Florida, you got Coach Dan Mullen, as he's in his 3rd season. In his first season in 2017, they went 4-7. But then last year they had a big improvement. They went 10-3 and then destroyed Michigan in the Peach Bowl. So expectations are high for the number 8 Florida Gators. Now I got Florida running away with this game. I'm going to call it 34-17. My man Jeff Hendricks says the Gators. I got all Gators. Like I said, Miami's more on a rebuilding this season. A lot of question marks on the offensive line. I expect Florida Gators, who had 37 sacks last year, to dominate it as well. But I don't know if I'm sold on Florida being a top 5 team because they're also weak up front in the offense line as well. But I got Florida 34-17 on that one. So here we go. Moving on from there. We all talked, if you guys have been watching preseason, what is it even worth the preseason? I mean, last night you saw the Patriots and the Carolina Panthers. Cam Newton got sacked and he sprained his ankle. So now they say, he'll be good for week 1. But there's too many of these preseason games. And they are to me, it's too much. It's too much. You got too many preseason games, NFL. You got to get some of those away. I know at NFL, they want to make their money. You're going to sell some TV time preseasons and obviously some tickets and preseason games. But it's just too much. And I've heard a lot of radio, a lot of people saying, well, you need preseason. And then other people on the other side of the fence saying, no, it's not good. These guys are getting hurt. Now, I understand why they need it, because you got to see a lot of young guys in live action. But for the starters, I don't think it's so good. And a lot of people say, well, you need to get hit and you need to go through those repetitions. You don't want to go into the regular season without getting hit because you'll get hurt even quicker, which I don't understand that. But here's what I suggest for the NFL, and let me know what you guys think. Tell me what you guys would do. I think they should take 2 preseason games away. So what are they playing? 5 right now? 4? So you take 2 preseason games away and start doing what, like the Patriots, the Saints did in the past, which a lot of teams are doing now, and that's those joint practices. I really like how they do the joint practices. I think they're obviously more controlled, and you get the competition, and you can have 2 teams battle out all through the week. I think that'd be a lot better than having preseason games, and I think that's what they're going for, because then your quarterbacks are still wearing the red jerseys. They're not getting clocked. So Cam Newton would have never got hurt if it was just a joint practice week between Carolina and the Patriots. That's why you saw the Patriots didn't start any of their starters, other than a couple linemen, of course, because they were battling with Tennessee all week in practice. That's why you didn't see Brady. Yesterday you saw Brady because they weren't doing joint practices with Carolina. So that's what I would do, because it does, injuries happen, and that's what it is, and it's no big deal. But we got to take some of these preseason games away. Now, you guys have probably also heard that the NFL thinking about going to 18-game regular seasons. That won't happen. But there's another thing being thrown out there, actually having 2 more playoff games. So I guess that would mean each conference would have 8 playoff teams, so it would be no byes. And that wouldn't be a bad idea. I'd be up for that. Football fans would be up for that. I think the players would be fine with that. I mean, I know if you're the first or second seed, then you actually have to play in the first round. But, hey, more games, the better, right? More money. So, what do you guys think? Tell me what you think. Preseason overrated? Should I take preseason games away? Because to me, it's just gone too far. Because Cam Newton shouldn't even been in the game. If I was the coach, I wouldn't put Cam Newton in the game. Especially since he's been in the league for a while. I can understand why you put your rookies or your first couple year guys in there at quarterback, but like a Drew Brees, Tom Brady's, Phillip Rivers, I wouldn't even have them touch the field in preseason. They've done it, been there and done that. And I know you guys' argument as well. You gotta get good with new receivers. You can do that in practice. Okay, no reason for anybody to get hurt. Joe Lolio says, let's be honest, it's not about the injury, it's the money. And that's what you're talking about. But I'm going to tell you, Joe, a lot of coaches, because you saw yesterday, what was it, the Green Bay and Oakland game? They were playing on the 80-yard field. Green Bay sat 33 starters. Okay? And that's what's going to happen. I think that's going to happen more with coaches in the future. They're just going to sit all their starters completely. And then the NFL, it's almost like you're having an XFL game out there in the preseason. So many people might not be, as involved if you don't have all the stars playing at least one series or one quarter. So it's going to be tough because, like I said, the NFL is all about money. And I think if they do the 8 teams make the playoffs, and essentially that will give you 2 more playoff games. I think the NFL would be almost trade that with taking away 2 preseason games because, obviously preseason doesn't make as much as a playoff game. So if they got together and said, okay, we're going to have 8 teams from each conference making the playoffs, you get 2 playoff games in each conference, extra playoff games, that would be a good trade-off. That's for sure. I appreciate you guys commenting. Keep commenting. I appreciate you guys watch the show. Make sure you guys follow it, share it, comment, and like it. Because like I said, for us to get big, we need you guys, the gym rats out there, to let it get going. With that said, we're going to move on. And this is what I've been waiting for. Like I said, I like basketball. You like basketball. We all like basketball. But guess what time it is? It is time for the greatest of all time in the NBA. Now, we've been talking about this the last 3 shows, how I'm going to do it. I have a formula. We have points, rebounds, assists. It's tough to get the blocks and steals in there and three-point makes because that didn't go out through history. So I took points, rebounds, and assists. Now, I did take defense. I took MVPs, NBA titles, clutchness, and I did it in a point formula. Now, obviously, in the points, rebounds, and assists, all-time leader in points would get the 12 points, and then out of the 12 players would get whoever had the lowest points would get 1. So in the points, Kareem would get 12, obviously, because he's number 1 of all time. Now, out of the 12 players, Bill Russell had the least amount of points career-wise. He got 1. What's up, Cedric? Watching? I see you. Glad you're watching, man. We're going over the greatest of all time in NBA history. And got a formula, and this is going to be right. The 12 players that were involved here, okay? We picked 10 players together, and I brought in 12. So everybody got to pick their top 10 of all time, and I put them in. Shaquille O'Neal, Hakeem Olajuwon, Oscar Robinson, Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Russell, Tim Duncan, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Kobe Bryant, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, LeBron James, Michael Jordan. Okay? So, with that said, we're going to go over the greatest of all time. And I'm going to go through 12 to number 1. Okay? Now, this was on a point sheet. So clutchness had a lot to do with it. Whoever was number 1 in clutchness, they got points. I did the best in each decade. They got a certain amount of points. The best defensive player in each decade, they got a certain amount of points. And that's how I came up with the greatest of all time. So here we go. Let me get my camera set up here. And we're going to have camera A. And so we're going to go with number 12. Jeff Hendricks says there's no formula as Jordan. And see, when we go through this formula takes away, what a lot of people, like, they have favorites. Or they have an era they grew up in and they attach themselves to a player. This will solve all of that. But you guys can, when we go through it, comment. Let me know if you disagree and what you agree with and what you don't. But number 12 was Oscar Robinson, Mr. Triple Double. He was a great all-around player, and that's what puts him up there, because it's important that you get all stats. That's what makes you a great player too. There's some players out there like an Alvin Iverson, who probably didn't get as many rebounds as some others, or like a Ray Allen, who's considered a great all-time, but he wasn't big on rebounding. He didn't play the greatest defense. He was just a pure shooter. But doesn't mean you're not a great. Now, clutchness, Joe asks, how do you do clutchness? Well, here's how it goes. A lot of people say, who's the best of all time? A lot of people say Kobe, because he actually has hit the most game winners, or the ones that tie the game in the last 2 minutes, but his shooting percentage wasn't great. So I took that into account. I did look up a few online and how they ranked him, and I kind of just, averaged them all out, because sometimes you have to have an eye test. Some players, obviously, like Kareem, especially in the 80s, the ball didn't always go to him in the clutch. It probably went to more like Magic Johnson. So those guys get kind of hit on the clutchness. So here we go. You're not getting the point total. I don't have the point total on this sheet. I have it somewhere else, which that's fine. And Jeff says 6-0 in the finals. Enough said. So Jeff, with that said, you can say 11 championships for Bill Russell trumps Jordan, correct? So this is why I brought out this formula, because a lot of people would say, well, if you bring up titles, because that's what you're bringing up with Jordan, Bill Russell won 8 in a row. 8 in a row. That cannot be beat by anybody. So let's continue, because you guys got me all excited and I'm off. That's okay. So here we go. We get this camera set. We got number 11 here, and that's Shaquille O'Neal. And this man, I remember when he came in the league in 1992, he came and took this league by storm. He dominated. He was breaking rims. He was exciting. He was great for the NBA. A big personality. Won some MVPs. He was the most dominant big man we ever had, especially when it comes to pure strength. You couldn't stop him. I remember when Philadelphia played the Lakers in the championship. I felt so bad for Mutombo, how many elbows he took in the chops, and then Shaq just dunking on him. Think about that. And Jeff, go ahead and elaborate. How is that different? Because I know eras are different, but hey, you can't blame someone for dominating their era. Like I said in my past show, everybody, if Oscar Robinson was born in the 90s, he'd be a different type of player. He'd be probably bigger, stronger, faster, because obviously Ayers is bigger, stronger, faster because the way we train, the way we eat, it's all different. So you can't knock something when you're talking about the greatest of all time. That's why a lot of people say it's unfair to do the greatest of all time. You should just do greatest of all time by Ayers and then not compare those. So maybe every 10, 15 years you do Ayers or whatever Ayers you think it should be, 10 or 20 years. But we're not scared. We're going to go the greatest of all time. Okay. Next up, The Dream, Akeem Olajuwon. What's up, Trevor? Trevor, we're doing the greatest of all time now, and we're on number 10. That's Akeem Olajuwon. That's everybody's homeboy here at Houston. This guy was a dominant factor. This guy led the league in blocks, defensive stud. I mean, I remember in the 94 finals what he did to Shaq. And I know Shaq was younger, and that's nothing against it, and that's why he's not one above. He had more rebounds than Shaq. He was a better defensive player than Shaq. Didn't win as many titles, obviously, but like I said, we can't just make titles the biggest thing because then Bill Russell would be the greatest all time, all the time. And then Jeff says, is there anyone watching this really believe Jordan is not the GOAT? And I'm glad you said this, Jeff, because a lot of people are going to watch this show afterwards because they're still at work, and they're going to comment. But I'm going to bring it up. He's getting nervous. Jeff, is that your favorite player? Is that your favorite player is Michael Jordan? Because it sounds like it. So here we go. We're going to keep on going here. As next up, we got Larry Bird. So he would be number 10 right here. And Jeff says, how about what he did to David Robinson? Are you talking about the Dream? Yeah, Dream, when at his prime, the Dream would kill anybody. I think Dream, overall, if you would have told me, if you would have asked Mr. Fundamental, hey, if you had to pick your all-time starters for a all-NBA team, who would you start? Like if I was a GM, all-time, I would pick Akeem as my center, to be honest with you. I would. I think Akeem at his prime was just so balanced offensively and defensively. So I would pick that. So we got Larry Bird, number 10. Everybody knows this dude is a beast. He's my favorite player, obviously, as he's behind me. You can't see. But Larry Bird, he was clutch. He had high on the clutchness. And this is where it made the debate with Magic, who's better, Magic or Bird. And it was very close. These guys were almost tied. I give Magic the nod is because he had a little more titles, but his stats, other than his assists, weren't as big as Bird. Bird did score more points, did get more rebounds, was more clutch in my eyes. So this, I mean, obviously I'm going to show you number, 9 is it? And that is Magic Johnson. And I almost had him and Bird tied, okay? But I know if I would have put one, if I would have tied it, you guys would have blown me up. So I'm going to give Magic the small edge because he had more titles and he beat Larry Bird in '87, and that was great. So here we go. You said what you guys asked here? Bird number 9. Yes, sir. Bird number 9, Magic number 8. Okay? And you're right. Longevity hurt Bird. Okay? And this has a lot to do with this, guys. This has a lot to do with this. Longevity has a lot to do with this. And I see Albert said, Jeff Johnson, only the young ones will think he isn't the GOAT. They would pick Bron or KD, which I understand. Albert has a good point. They don't remember seeing Larry Bird. Now, I would put LeBron over Larry Bird, and I think KD, when it's all said and done, will be ranked above Larry Bird as well. So I'm not trying to be a homer here, okay? So that's how I come up with it. Longevity is huge, guys, of being the greatest of all time. You don't want to be a guy that plays 5 years, and even if you go win 4 championships and you lead the league in points, and you only play 5 years, should we put you the GOAT? I don't think so. I think you still have to have a long career. And Larry Bird, who actually he hurt his back in the off season, I think it was between the 87 and 88 season, he was actually building a parking lot or a parking, I think it was a driveway for his mom. So instead of a rich guy like that hiring somebody, he actually was, making a driveway for his mom, and he hurt his back. That's how he hurt his back. And then he was hurt, and then obviously going into the 91-92 season, which is his last season, oh boy, he was in pain. Jeff Hendricks says his favorite player is Kobe, then LeBron, then KD. God, Jeff is one of my favorite dudes in the world. But Kobe, he's a Laker, that's why. LeBron, he's a Laker, that's why. I hate him. I don't like you, Jeff. No, just kidding, buddy. I've always liked Jeff. So, number 7. And a lot of people didn't even put this guy on the list. And I was very shocked. This is one of the reasons why I made it 11-12. And I think a lot of people forget about this. And this is another reason why when it comes to picking the GOAT, media throws us all off. It's not all about stats and championships. It's all about flair. Who could fly? Who was in front of the cameras? Magic, Showtime, obviously in the 80s. He wanted to be in front of the cameras all the time. Jordan, he flew out the sky. It was popular. LeBron, obviously, always on social media. Taco Tuesday, whatever. And that's why guys like Tim Duncan get sold short. Because Tim Duncan, all he did was get on the floor and play basketball. Tell me I'm wrong. Nope. Michael Williams, am I right? Tim Duncan was overlooked. He won 5 championships. He had more MVPs than Kobe. And who did they talk about? Kobe. They said he was the best player. Am I wrong? No. Because he was in San Antonio and he didn't go out and do commercials. He gets thrown off the bus. I'm telling you, if I would have showed you all my top 10 that people turned, not many people would put Tim Duncan. And every time I say, what about Tim Duncan? They're like, oh yeah, I forgot about him. Because, like I said, the greatest all time can have a lot to do with the media these days. So Tim Duncan, number 7, what do you guys think? And Tim Duncan's the real Mr. Fundamental. Yes, he's actually, what do they call, his nickname is Big Fundamental? Is that what his real nickname was? That's one of the reasons why I went to Mr. Fundamental, because he had big fundamental. I'm not that big anyway. So here we go, moving on to number 6. Now, I just talked about Kobe, and this was close. Tim Duncan and Kobe, they were like almost like the Magic and Bird of the eras. They battled it out. The only reason why Kobe got the nod over was because he was willing to take that game-winning shot. If you needed a bucket, he was not afraid of any pressure. And he wasn't a bad defender either, so it got him up there. And he did obviously have more points and more assists, and he had longevity as well, so that helped him jump over Duncan. So he's number 6. So here we go. We're getting to the nitty-gritty, the next 6, the top 6 of all time. And I know a lot of people, when they did their own top 10, they put Bird and Magic. Well, not many people so much Bird, but Magic was a lot in the top 5. Guess what? And Trevor says Kevin Garnett. Kevin Garnett would be up there. But like I said, we couldn't do this formula if we took every NBA player. Because then you got guys like Mutombo, with his blocks and his rebounds, who would get a lot of points. And Kevin Garnett, he's a top 20, 25 in my eyes. I got his jersey hanging up here. Love Kevin Garnett, but I don't think he deserves, top 10 or what we're going through. Next, obviously, Wilt Chamberlain. So he's number 5. Wilt Chamberlain dominated his era. He was tough. I mean, his one thing that jumps out, obviously stats, rebounds. He was high up there. He won MVPs, which counts. He won it, I think, 4 of those. He was up there, and he was really, really close to Tim Duncan. He actually edged Tim Duncan by only a half a point. So, Wilt Chamberlain, I think if there was no Bill Russell in his way, this man would have 10 rings himself. So this is why he's number 5, which brings us to the number 4 of all time. And I know people are going to get fired up. A lot of Celtic fans are going to say, wait, Mr. Fundamental, you love the Celtics. Why is Bill Russell number 4? I'm going to tell you why. Obviously, rebounding, he's second all time. He was behind Wilt Chamberlain. He had the second most rebounds. He averaged about 22 a game for his career. But one thing that you had to dip him for, I mean, he didn't score many points. He wasn't a very good shooter. I think he only shot like 42% half the time. For a big man, that's not that great. So he wouldn't have got the clutchness. He was, down further, which a lot of centers are. But if you notice, when it comes to points and rebounds, a lot of centers are way up there, so they get an advantage. So the clutchness has to go would probably go more towards the guards and forwards, of course. Number 1 is. Sorry, I didn't mean to cough on you guys. And Michael says, don't respect Bill Russell like that. I can't, man. I'm not. This is not. You don't understand. The guys that are in front of him deserve it. It's deserving, guys. You can't just put it all on championships. Because one thing a lot of people can knock Bill Russell for, which is not his fault. There was only like 8 to 10 teams in the league back then, which I understand that. It's not the greatest argument, but it is what it is. He's number 4. You shouldn't... To be number 4 of all time, you should hang your hat on that. For real. Bill Russell will always be one of the most respected players in NBA history. I mean, this guy walks around the NBA like he's God, and everybody respects him. So I think if he saw this list, he wouldn't be upset. Now, guess what? Top 3. Here we go. Number 3. Now, here's the thing. LeBron James' career's not over yet. Like I said, I don't like to do greatest of all time lists with guys that are still playing, but he's played long enough, and everybody's saying he is better than Michael Jordan, or he's the greatest of all time. Now, looking at this, he is 3rd, and he is pretty close to number 2. So, obviously, he plays another 2 or 3 years. He's going to move up in the points. He could pass, who's number 2 in the points? Kobe. He could pass Kobe. Okay. He will move up in rebounds. He should catch Larry Bird in career rebounds this year, so I'll give him more points. So he has a chance to move up to the greatest all time. But guess what? He's not. So here we go. Now you already know who we got. Now, here we go. Now it's going to blow up. Comment. Get mad. Do whatever you want. But I'm going to explain it to you. Okay? Number 2. Greatest of all time. And then I'm just going to jump right into number 1 because you're going to know who number 1 is. Greatest. Number 2 is Michael Jordan. Yeah, go ahead and go nuts, Jeff. Go ahead and go nuts, Trevor. But I'm going to explain it to you. Okay? Michael Jordan was great. Let me tell you something. Before I actually really looked into it and looked into the history and looked into the stats, if you would have asked me last week, Mr. Fundamental, who's your greatest of all time, I would have told you Michael Jordan. I seriously would have told you Michael Jordan. I hated Michael Jordan because he was a rival of my Celtics in the 80s, and then obviously he just dominated the 90s. So I wasn't a fan of him. But I would have told you, and anybody that knows me would have said, oh yeah, Mr. Fundamental would have picked MJ. But going through these stats and everything, longevity, everything, brings me to the number 1. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is number 1. He is the greatest of all time. And let me tell you something. It wasn't even that close. Obviously, longevity helped him. He's number 1 all time in scoring. Okay? He has 6 MVPs himself. He dominated a decade. And even went into the 80s. The guy was a machine. Guys, you guys don't realize. This guy was so dominant, they made the Alcindor rule because of him. They said, you can't dunk. You're too damn dominant. This rule went on for 8 years, from 67 to 75. You couldn't dunk. That's why he developed that sweet skyhook. Are you telling me that he could not come to today's game? Obviously, he would bulk up and dominate. The stats say it. He's a number three in all rebounds. And see, Jeff, you're getting mad. We can't play favorites. Have you seen this guy play? Now, Jeff, I know you're younger than me, so you watched Jordan. I'm older. I watched Kareem. I watched Kareem when he was old. Game 1 of '87 finals, right? The Celtics killed him. And everybody said in the papers, Jabbar is done. Jabbar is done. You know what happened in Game 2? He dominated, and they won Game 2 in the Boston Garden, and it changed that whole series. And the Lakers won the '87 finals because of that man. I was actually shocked when I pulled all this together. And a lot of people are going to get hurt because I really think when it comes to the greatest of all time, you got to look into it even deeper. Because I think what I said earlier, they're going into the media. Lolo just said it, based on publicity. And that brought up my point. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar really didn't get too much publicity until like the end of his career because he started doing those little movies and getting in there and stuff like that. But like Jordan, LeBron, publicity. Kobe, if you ask who dominated the 2000 to 2010, everybody would say Kobe and no one would say Tim Duncan. And why? Because I would pick Tim Duncan. I would pick Tim Duncan. I would pick Tim Duncan a little over Kobe if I had my choice. Now, with my thing, they were close. But no one even mentioned Tim Duncan. When I asked for top 10, half of you didn't put Tim Duncan in there because a lot of you guys go by what's popular. And I'm not saying that's what you do, Jeff. Because Jeff, I know, me and Jeff talk a lot about basketball. He's a very smart dude. But I'm just telling you, like, I was shocked, Jeff. I ain't going to lie. Before I did this, if I would have picked it, I would have put MJ number 1. Okay? I probably would have put LeBron number 2. Then Bill Russell, because that's my man. Then Kareem. But then looking deep into it, the stats, what they did, how they changed basketball. I mean, you have to put all that. So tell me, if you guys agree and you're watching the show late, put it in there. Tell me what you think of Mr. Fundamental's game point top 12 of all time. So the greatest of all time, which is finalized, and I'll argue with anybody about it. I have no problem arguing about it. Is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. So LeBron, to be honest with you, has a chance to catch him, but he's going to have to play longer than people expect. Okay, a lot of people still bring up KD, and Lolo even brought it a great point. Do you realize KD, for him to pass Kareem in the all-time scoring list, he'll have to average 25 points a game for 8 more seasons, and he's missing next season. So the dude's going to have to play to 39 years old. See, guys, longevity has a lot to do with it. And Kareem was dominant from day one until he retired. He was great. And I hated this son of a... Took the '87 title from my Celtics. Are you kidding me? But that's it. Man, we going way over time. I'm supposed to do 35-minute shows. I'm at 38 minutes. But guess what? We having fun. So, we're at the part of the show. Ask Mr. Fundamental a question. And why you guys are giving me the question. Remember, I'm looking for a co-host. I've only gotten 2 videos. Remember, I got to start pronouncing better. You guys, all you have to do is follow, like, share, and comment on all the shows. But then you send me like a 10-second video. I only got 2 videos. Because here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a top 8, and we're going to have a little playoff system and where you gym rats will vote on my first co-host. Okay? And Jeff, I appreciate you liking the show. But Jeff, I want you to put a little 10-second video, and I'm going to put it on the show why you want to be my first co-host. And I'm going to get you a shirt, and we're going to sit. I'm actually going to have a studio set up soon. We're kicking my daughter out. No, we're not kicking her out. She's going to college. I'm taking the room. My wife doesn't like it, but she's going to be a sweetheart and make it a studio for me. I'm going to have to buy her a bigger house. That's going to be the deal. I already know it. And so we're going to move on. So let's get my question in quick. You ask the question. I'll answer it. And then we'll do Mr. Fundamental's tip and end the show. Remember, Tuesday, 6 p.m. Central, so that's 7 Eastern, 5 Mountain Time, 4 Pacific. I'll be doing the show instead of 4 o'clock. Friday, I'm not really sure yet because I will be traveling from Wyoming to Colorado. I'll let you guys know on the Tuesday show what's going on. Like I said, I'm taking my daughter to uh, Wyoming. I don't want to be a co-host. I'm just talking about my first co-host. I don't mean for all time because actually, once I want someone to win the first co-host, what I'm going to do is you're going to be my first ever co-host, and then we're going to go out to dinner afterwards, hang out, and then we'll move. After that, I'm going to have guest co-hosts all the time. So if you don't win the first co-host, you'll still have a chance to get on the show because I'm gonna banter with people. Like Jeff, I had him on my old Game Point show, and it was a great show. It was a great show. Like I said, to have guys like Jeff Hendrick on here commenting make the show what it is. So I appreciate you saying I like your show, but it is your show as well. Lolio, Albert Pena, all the guys out there that support, it is your show as well. So I need a question. So who wins the FedEx Cup? Now you guys love asking these golf questions. And what is it, Brooke Koepka? Now I don't know if I said his name. Is that his name? That's who's going to win it. I know I pronounced his name wrong. It's that dude. He's the guy in the ESPN magazine. The dude's built like he looks like a guy that can play football. But that's the guy who's going to win. That's the guy who's going to win. So that is my answer. God, these golfers. And that's my brother, too. If he wasn't so big, I would knock him out. Asking those questions. I want to... Golf, I don't know. So, Joe, when we have a major, we're going to sit you and you can be my co-host. And I'll sit here and drink Gatorade and you talk because I don't know nothing about golf. And Jeff Hendricks says, Rory, see... Jeff, you're going to have to co-host one show. I know you don't want to be my first co-host, but when you're ready, we're going to get you on here and you're going to love it. But like I said, the first one, let's get some videos in, and I'm going to take the top 8. I'm going to play each video. Then I'm going to put out a poll, and we'll have round 1, semifinals, finals, and then a champion. You'll get on my show with me, and it'll be fun. And I do like to talk, and my dad as well, Lo. So guys, here's my tip of the day. As I was talking about, I am about to drop my daughter off in college. So here's my tip for you guys that have kids. Make sure you guys cherish every moment with your kids because, man, let me tell you something. You blink and they just grow and they're gone. I have 4 kids and 2 of them are in college. My daughter's about to go to college, and I also have a 2-year-old. Almost a 2-year-old. Time flies. So make sure you cherish your kids and spend that time. I know they can be a pain in your butt when they're saying, Daddy, 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 look, look, look. Those times come and go so quick, and if you blink, it's gone, and you're going to wonder where it went. So that's my tip to you guys. Cherish your kids. Cherish your moms and dads because they're not going to be there forever. Always love your family. Love each other. I appreciate you watching my show. Remember, Tuesday at 6 p.m., guys. You guys take care. Till next time.